What's up, design family, and welcome to another episode of FittDesign TV. On today's episode, we'll be looking at what are the main characteristics of sportswear. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot, so I wanted to make a video giving my 2 cents on what the defining features of sportswear are. Welcome to FittDesign TV. On this channel, we'll explore what it takes to make it as an activewear fashion brand, whilst providing tips, tricks, and actionable steps towards starting your own product line. Whether you're an entrepreneur looking to start your own brand or just someone interested in fitness fashion, there's something for you here. Like I said, sportswear is a term that gets thrown around so often. People don't really think about what it means. So I definitely think that sportswear can be summed up into 4 main categories that really define the genre. The first is the materiality of sportswear. The second is the fit, shape, and silhouettes that are used in sportswear. Third are the aesthetics of sportswear. So what's the aesthetic theory behind how sportswear is designed? And lastly, it's the versatility of sportswear. So versatility at the forefront of how we design and how we brand the clothes. The first, like I said, is materiality. Sportswear is all about the fabrics. What we use, how they function, and how they perform in our day-to-day lives is essential to the definition of sportswear. Typically, sportswear materials are breathable, they are moisture wicking, so they allow to wick sweat away from the surface, or vice versa, they keep sweat or water away from your skin. They're typically temperature controlling, so just as they're meant to cool you, they're also meant to keep heat trapped in certain situations. If you can think of a layered ski jacket where the main goal is not to cool you but to heat you up, so that's homeostasis and that's temperature control, and sportswear can have that ability. Next, we'll look at the flexibility of sportswear. So materials in sportswear that are typically used are always flexible because we're moving around a lot. Flexibility is paramount. Also, the lightweight nature of the fabrics used is also a key component within sportswear because we are moving around, we're expending energy. We want to make sure that the garments that are helping facilitate that are not overly heavy, so reducing weight in the fabrics used is key. Regardless of whether the item is a larger item or it's a layered item, even on some ski jackets, on some outerwear jackets, hiking pants, you'll always notice that the fabrics that are tended to be used are pushed to their limits in terms of their weight reduction. So lightweight fabrics are also very important. And lastly, it's the functionality of these fabrics. We've done a video on the top functional finishes that are typically used in sportswear in this industry in general, but fabrics are always pushed to their limits when it comes to the functional effects that they can have on the wearer. For example, you can typically alter fabrics to give them an anti-odor finish, or you can give them a water repellent finish, denying water from entering through the surface, or you can give them an anti-UV finish, an anti-static finish. There are a multitude of finishes that we can consider, but definitely having functional finishes is a key characteristic of what constitutes sportswear. Next, we can look at the fit, shape, and silhouettes of the garments used. Sportswear is all about how our garments react with our bodies, so special attention is definitely put onto the fit of these garments. Typically, the fits that we're going to see are more athletic, so the measurements that are used are more tailored towards an athletic body type or enhancing an athletic look. Typically, they're also a lot more structured, so there's very specific ratios and ways that we frame the shoulders, the chest, the waist, whether it's leggings, how we increase the size of the rise to give the appearance of longer legs. There are a ton of things that you can do to alter the fit of a garment or the silhouette of the garment to create a more athletic look on the wearer, and that's always a key defining characteristic. Whenever you see a pair of leggings, they have been tailored that way to accentuate and to really push the femininity of the wearer, or vice versa. With a man, they're meant to push the muscularity and the overall broad structure of the male physique. So they have to always be structured in that sense. And then that leads us on to the fact that typically they're meant to be form flattering. You'll never see sportswear that tries to obscure The physique, obviously you do have some items like oversized items, warm-up hoodies that don't really hug the skin, and that those have their own functions and their own uses in terms of promoting blood circulation in the early parts of your workout. But the argument can be made that typically sportswear is meant to enhance your physique. So it's meant to be form flattering, and it emphasizes muscularity, whether that's deliberately or passively. What do I mean by that? Deliberately can mean like the structure and the paneling on the garment literally frames certain areas or certain muscles, such as quad lines, or on a pair of leggings, that heart shape from the back that's meant to frame the rear, or passively like the kind of higher cut arms on a cap sleeve men's tank top that is meant to show more of the arm, more of the triceps. So that's more of a passive framing, but definitely they always emphasize muscularity. The third theme that we'll look at is aesthetics. Definitely aesthetics is not something that can be honed down. Each brand has their own approach and their own aesthetics, but aesthetics overall are a huge proponent or a huge category that is pushed in sportswear. And there's definitely no set color palette. Different brands will have a different approach. Sometimes you'll look at tonal or neutral palettes, which will provide a more sophisticated and mature approach. If you look at Lululemon or Isaora or a lot of the more mature brands that are pushing for a older audience, versus brands that use palettes that are a lot more divisive and contrasty, neons, pastels per se, but pastels with a very eclectic kind of combination, complementary colors that are on opposite sides of the color wheel, which we've also done a video on color theory, which I highly recommend you check out. So definitely there's no set way to go about, but I believe that there's definitely an aesthetic philosophy where aesthetics is at the forefront of what this design or what sportswear is meant to be, regardless of if it's something that's meant to be more sophisticated and mature or young, vibrant, and playful. Also, we can look that typically garments that fall within the realm of sportswear they're typically structured. So this goes back to the fit and shape, but you'll see a lot of paneling, a lot of mixing of colors, a lot of mixing of materials, and that not only goes for a functional purpose. For example, if you have mesh in a garment that's strategically placed in certain areas where you're letting in a lot more heat, or if it's for a sort of aesthetic purpose of framing the physique, of bringing attention to certain parts of the physique, there's always a structured or paneled look in sportswear that is typically prevalent. Obviously, you can have a lot more minimalistic sportswear, and that has its own subset within the industry, but we do look at sportswear as being typically very panel heavy and structured. And then last, we'll look at the versatility of these garments, or more the overall usability in many different situations. I think why sportswear has become so popularized is just about anyone can pick up a piece within this genre and they can make it their own. It's not something that really marginalizes a certain subset of society. Regardless of you're not particularly fit, you can use these garments because they just perform so well, they're relatively affordable, they're lightweight, they're very comfortable, so you can use them in and out of the gym. You can also use them in less athletic situations, whether you're walking your dog, or whether you're going for a run, or whether you're going for a heavy set of squats, or whether you're Olympic jumping. They have that versatility to them that is hard to find in other areas or other industries, regardless if it's streetwear where you have these denim jackets. Those only have a certain limited number of uses, versus sportswear, which now has definitely begun to bring in even more casual elements. You see this bridging of identities and styles, and then that's just another example of how versatile sportswear can be and how it's going to continue to dominate, because it's able to be a jack of all trades and to do different things quite well, because it doesn't take itself too seriously. Unlike with like an haute couture dress or a three-piece suit, those garments are a lot more limited in their use. So that's pretty much what I believe are the main overarching characteristics of sportswear. I'm sure there are a ton more. If you feel like I've left out any that are really important, do feel free to drop them in the comments below. Obviously, I don't know everything, but in my experience over the last 3 years designing sportswear, this is what I've seen, and I want to share that with you guys. hopefully you enjoyed these videos, and hopefully you guys can leave a comment below of other types of videos that you want to see within this realm of how to identify certain things. Thank you so much for tuning into FittDesign TV. It's been an absolute pleasure having you guys visit the channel. Thank you, and stay awesome.